Wazoth Yehal, Echata Kevin. In this video, we are going over 10 words in the Northumbrian dialect of Old English. Let's begin. Our first word is day. Day in the Northumbrian dialect of Old English is doi. Do, a, doi. And for those of you wondering what's the West Saxon equivalent, that would be die. Die is the A. Sorry, pardon me. The ash letter. That's the, for those of you who don't know, is the A and the E put together. That symbol, that character is called ash in the matters of Old English. So it makes an ah sound, as in cat. Ah. Not like an A or A alone just is like ah. 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 It's quite different. So die. That's West Saxon. Doi. The thing is, when you're working with old languages and pronunciation, is that you tend to, this is the case for me, where I tend to overthink the pronunciation, like I separate the syllables, if you will, or the vowels, and do, a. Anyway, let's move on. Next word is, which means grass. Grass in the Northumbrian dialect of Old English is Gers. Gers. West Saxon, Gers. Gers. Northumbrian Old English, Gers. West Saxon. The next word we have, which means first. There are two variations of this. I think the first one I'm going to show in this video, I think it has an influence from West Saxon. I'm not too sure, but we'll go over it anyway. Ærist. Ærist. Yes, for those of you who don't know, when the ash has a macron over it, that's the line over the vowel. For the case of ash, it's a sound. So Ærist. Ærist. And the West Saxon equivalent is Erest. Erest. Erest is the Northumbrian variation. I think this word in particular is influenced by West Saxon. But then the other variation of this word is Erest. Erest. And that's an E with a macron and so I'm just going to separate the sounds for those of you who are new to pronunciation of Old English, and for some of you don't have a trained ear in Old English, so some of you may think that this all sounds the same. So Ærist, 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 pardon me. So, well, maybe, given the spelling here, it seems likely that, well, who knows? I mean, there must be some West Saxon influence on the Northumbrian dialect of Old English, I mean. But anyway, let's move on. The next word we have is father. Father in Father in Northumbrian dialect of Old English is Fæder. Fæder. Whereas West Saxon, Fæder. Like we see Fæder ura, in the Lord's Prayer, or Our Father, Fæder ura, West Saxon, and just Fæder, in Northumbrian dialect of Old English. There's one thing to really bear in mind about, especially Northumbrian dialect, and what language group it is as far as linguistics go. It is grouped in the Anglian dialects, if you will, and that's Northumbrian and Mercian. And one thing to really remember is that it's these dialects that evolved into modern English. Yes, we have a lot of West Saxon material out there, but it was the Anglian dialects is what evolved into what we speak today. Let us move on. Then we have a word that means so, which is swa. And sometimes I've seen swa with as just SUAE, but not as an ash. It's just with some ash, some without ash. I'm not too sure, but it's important to know that when you're dealing with older languages, expect word letters that you're familiar with that have different sounds and represent different letters. In this case, with swa, swa a, remember ae, it's that the U in this case I would imagine will make a W sound, and that tends to be the case with other Germanic languages, old Germanic languages, that a U can be a W sound, a W, or modern English W sound. But anyway, let's move on. Our next, hang on. So the West Saxon equivalent is swa, swa, then Northumbrian swa, swa, swa. So there's a big difference between, ash and a. Because thing is, in modern English, I mean, we use a for both of those sounds, and so it can be quite confusing, especially with different accents and different dialects around the world. It gets a little confusing. Anyway, let's move on. So we have our next word. It means with, and that is in the Northumbrian dialect of Eald English, or Eald English, Ald English. It's funny, I'm saying the word old and different every time almost. Anyway, so the word for with in the Northumbrian dialect of Eald English is myth, myth. And the West Saxon equivalent is mid. Myth, myth, with the Northumbrian dialect of Old English, and mid with West Saxon dialect of Old English. And then next word we have, which means the word but. No, not your buttocks, but as in the context of, but then. So, in Northumbrian dialect of Old English, we have ach, ach. Where in West Saxon it's och, och. Northumbrian dialect of Old English, ach, ach. Anyway, let's move on. Then we have, this might surprise some of you, maybe, I don't know. Then we have the next word. Our word is all. All, and well, the Northumbrian word for all is a Northumbrian dialect of Old English. All is all. Sounds quite similar, doesn't it? All. And West Saxon al, al. Because EA in Old English, from what I've learned from my grammar books, EA, diphthong, without any accents or without any macrons, EA is like ah, 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 ah. Anyway, al. But I hear a lot of people saying eal, or they would say, like for example, the word in Old English sax. Which means like the knife, or if you say Sax, which refers to the Saxons. I've heard people say Seaxa or Seax, but I it's easy to make mistakes like that. But then again, I mean, I'm just going by what I know, what I've learned from my grammar books, and some grammar books may disagree or agree on a few things, but it's good to have a number of them and see what they agree and don't agree. And so for those of you wondering, well, how do we even know what they sounded like back then? Well, there's a lot of texts, a lot of poetry, and linguistic comparative analysis. We can look at word endings, rhymes, and study of dialects today and how they pronounce their words, how much they evolved. I mean, there's many tools you can find out, like a really educating guess how it would have sounded back then. I mean, there's a whole field of study in this. All right, so if you want to know how people find out these sounds or have an idea of these sounds, I mean, you'll find some heavy information about it. Anyway, so all, Yeah, al. Northumbrian dialect of Old English, al. In West Saxon dialect of Old English. Next, our next word is the word are, but are as in part of the verb to be, like we are, they are, you are, plural. Yeah, that's one thing I want to make up, because thing is in English, in modern English we only have one you, and we use that for everything, unless you're speaking in dialect in other in modern English dialects of English where you have to. Anyway, I'm trailing off. So the word are in Northumbrian dialect of Old English is aron, we aron, aron. But there is a variation. It's aron. I don't know if that's part of Northumbrian. I don't know. Don't quote me on that, but I do know that aron, aron, is like the plural for like we aron, he aron, ye aron. So we aron, we are. Ye aron is you are, and he aron, they are, plural. In the West Saxon, I believe, I don't know. I mean, because like you look at some West Saxon texts, and they have the usage of art used. Like for example, again, the Lord's Prayer, Fæder ura dútha art on heaven, art on heaven, art, yeah. Yeah, I like to really make that sound prevalent, because this stuff is not easy, not at all. But let's move on. Our final word for this video is a word that means daughter. Daughter in the Northumbrian dialect of Old English is Doehter. And that's Northumbrian, but West Saxon is Doehter. Doehter. Once you look into the Northumbrian dialect of Old English and Mercian as well, I mean, like you look at some of these words and they're like, whoa, they look very similar to words today. Yeah, and it's really interesting how to see the language evolve. I mean, I don't want to say, well, some would argue that the Anglian dialects is like the true like Old English. It's like, but that's the dialect that evolved. But yeah, you have other dialects roaming around. And for those of you who don't know how many dialects there are like 4 main ones. Northumbrian, obviously, in this video, Mercian, and oh boy, I should have said this in the beginning of the video. Yeah, Northumbria is in northern England. It's like as far as Anglo-Saxon England, yeah, it's like the most far north kingdom. Hence the name Northumbria, north of the Humber. Yeah, and anyway, yeah, I'm doing this video in a different style now. I noticed I read a comment that it's better that I do it this way, where it feels more natural. Rather have cuts and whatnot, and quite frankly, it takes more effort to put cuts and whatnot than put the add in the word in the video. But I'm gonna add the word in the video in the footage anyway, because it's one thing to hear it, but it's another to see it, because the audio visual is very useful. So yeah, anyway, last word, Doehter, in West Saxon, Doehter. Daughter. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much 10 words in Northumbrian dialect of Old English. Yeah, well, Ærist and Erest, I mean, they're both basically the same word, but different variation. But anyway, I hope all of you enjoyed this video. I hope you find it useful in your learnings of Old English and like to separate what is Old Saxon. No, excuse me, no. Whoa, the difference between Northumbrian dialect and West Saxon, not Old Saxon. That's something else. That's not for this channel. Okay. Well, thank you for watching. If you really like my material, please like my Facebook down below and follow me on Twitter down below as well. Make videos every Saturday, and be sure to subscribe, and well, was off, Yehal. Take care. Bye bye.